is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys!
This is Mick Shots.
Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And it's time for another week of fun on Mix Shots, or another hour of fun this week on Mix Shots here inside the SWBC podcast studio. Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola, the star of the show, wearing his cowboy blue with a big old star on his left chest.
And there's football players on the football field.
There are,
this
yeah.
morning.
Well, there was a tour.
Workouts.
There was a tour going by, and so I couldn't stand there and watch and see what players.
It looked like a ragtag group, actually.
Well, you guys.
The tour or the...
No. Not the tour. Good people, wherever you are. Good people, my people. No, the guys out there, they just all kind of, nobody had on anything blue. You know what I mean?
So
they look like cowboys.
You'll appreciate this. So watching the rehab group, which in the morning, as we've seen, Sam Williams and
Dak.
John, the tight end. Stevens. I always forget his name. I want to say Phillips for some reason.
Sloan Stevens.
Yes, right.
Brother or brother?
Half brother.
Yeah.
Yes. Out there watching the workout was Charles Haley.
Oh, okay.
So Charles here first thing in the morning, keeping an eye on Sam Williams.
He's getting the workout in. Getting the workout in, right? Charles.
No, he's standing there watching. His workout in was last week when I said the apocalypse is upon us. He had 2 grandchildren he was watching.
Oh, man.
They couldn't have been more than 3 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And he's chasing them around on the field. And
He kind of picks them up by the back, you know. That's how he
kind of like what he used to do with media members.
Yeah.
He just carries them around.
Yours truly,
like
too. Yeah. I said, the world's ready to end if somebody's trusting him with grandkids.
He's a good granddad.
But anyway, so there was football people out there.
All right, very good. And it's a beautiful day, beautiful week. How's your bracket doing?
I didn't do one.
You didn't do one. I did one, and it's actually doing better.
Oh, really?
With this transfer portal and NIL stuff, there aren't as many upsets as what there have been.
Well, there haven't been, has there?
And so
Well,
you got all the Power 4 teams that are in the Sweet 16.
there's been one, and it's too soon to talk about it, okay?
The what now?
I said there's been one upset, and I said it's
Missouri.
too soon to talk
Who
about
did Missouri lose to? Colorado State?
Drake.
Oh, Drake coach just got a new job. He's now the Iowa coach.
He got him the job.
He said, thank you.
He got the job.
He said, thank you to Missouri.
Yeah.
Right. I always said, show me. Okay, I'll show you. I'll take care of Missouri. And now he's...
So he just moved right down the road.
That's right. Yep. All right. So there's plenty to get to.
Yes.
And but off the top, let's pay tribute to one of the great sports broadcasters of our era who passed away at the age of 99 yesterday, the great Bill Mercer, who was the voice of the Cowboys back in the late 60s and early 70s. He was actually the original radio voice of the Texas Rangers baseball team, too, in 1972. Some of you may remember him as being the voice of world-class wrestling, Saturday Night Wrestling on Channel 11
That's
here.
probably how I would remember him.
And he's probably best remembered for that. And then University of North Texas, there have been so many sports broadcasters who come out of that school. And it's basically the Bill Mercer School of Sports Broadcasting.
And he did a heck of a job. And I didn't realize before the Cowboys, JFK and the Dallas Texans.
Okay.
Douglas had a cut from him selling tickets. It was a radio promo for the Dallas Texans.
The American Football League Dallas Texans.
But he also has, and I think Chris has it probably ready to go, a play-by-play cut from the Cowboys' Super Bowl victory against Miami Dolphins back in, would have been January of '72, correct?
Correct. in at tight end on the right side. Thomas, Garrison to the backfield. Allworth is in. Both tight ends are in now. Garrison right, Thomas left, second and goal, 3-yard line. Staubach looks to his left, checks to the right. At the 3, pitch out to Thomas. Dwayne cuts inside the 5 with a 2 and a touchdown for Dwayne Thomas. He made a great move on Bonacani, who fired into the backfield. Dwayne Thomas steps inside of him. Lance Allworth looks like the true Bambi. He goes leaping off the field, clapping his hands together. The Cowboys have racked them up now to 16-3. Try for extra point by Clark. It's up and it's good. Dallas 17, Miami 3.
All right.
That's when Tom Landry was in a good mood.
Wow. You think?
Yeah, he was never in a good mood after in the 80s.
Great names on that.
Bonacani.
Yeah, Nick Bonacani. It started with Billy Truax, who's the tight end for the Cowboys.
Allworth.
Lance Allworth.
Did he say Dwayne?
He did say Dwayne.
He said to Dwayne.
Yeah. It was on a first name basis.
First name basis.
Dwayne, he was the only guy in the building that was on a first name
Right,
basis.
yeah,
with
I would
Dwayne,
imagine,
including
yeah.
teammates.
That cut sounds like somebody talking about Babe Ruth hitting a home run. You know, that old voice.
Yeah. The quick
Yeah.
cadence, the quick cadence in the voice.
Yeah.
And all of them sounded like this, as if they were a tenor in the choir.
Like Lindsey Nelson at the 1974 Cotton Bowl. Johnny Musso to the 25-yard line. Johnny Musso to the 15-yard line. Johnny Musso into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama.
So that's that Oklahoma accent, huh? Muskogee, Oklahoma.
He's from an Okie from Muskogee.
He's in the Muskogee High School Athletics Hall of Fame.
All right, so he was a ball player too, I guess. Maybe.
Well, you know what? And I also read, I didn't realize this. He, during World War II, he was in service for 3 years on a ship and one of those PT votes, too, during World War II.
Wow. So he was born in 1926. My mom was born in was from Muskogee, Oklahoma, too.
Really?
Yep, about that same era.
I'm not surprised. I knew something about Oklahoma was going to grab him again. He's going to grab us again with something about his family.
My dad from Okemah, Oklahoma, just down the road from Troy Aikman's hometown of Henrietta, Oklahoma. So
99 years old.
99 years old. And I actually...
You remember listening?
Oh, yeah. And I was going to mention first that it was just a couple of years ago, maybe during COVID, exchanged some emails with Bill Mercer. I know what it was. I was trying to track down. He was the Rangers' voice on when David Clyde made his debut, which would have been 1973. So this is just a couple of years ago. And I was trying to track down from a guy who was mentored by Bill Mercer, Mike Capps, who was a longtime radio voice of the Round Rock Express. Anyway, and so he got me in touch with Bill Mercer, and we exchanged emails. And what I was amazed about with him was, I mean, at the time, he's 97 years old, and he was sharp as a tack, even just with emails, and that sort of thing. But to answer your question, I remember as a kid in 1972, first Rangers game ever. It was a weeknight game on the West Coast in Anaheim against the California Angels, and Bill Mercer and Don Drysdale were the announcers.
No way.
Yep. And I remember it was a school night, and so I went to bed with the transistor radio under my pillow, basically, and listening to the Rangers.
Did you guys?
Bill Mercer.
Did you listen to radio?
I did not listen to radio, but I was a wrestling aficionado.
Yep.
And I was a major fan of Wahoo McDaniel.
Yep. Oklahoma Sooner Wahoo McDaniel, by the way. Yeah.
Really?
Played football at OU.
Love this guy. Loved him to death, man.
And the Von Erichs.
Of course, the Von Erichs.
Bill
man.
Mercer was very
man.
close with the Von Erichs.
But I was, young enough to where, the dad was still in good shape. And
Did you watch it on Saturday nights?
Yes.
Oh, I did too.
My grandmother, she died at 104 years old, but she would sit there and she would press her hair at night. We had the women had the hot comb, and she would just sit there and she would fall asleep watching wrestling. And me and my cousin, who was her grandson, we would just go at it all the time in the bedroom while she's over there watching wrestling. She'd fall asleep watching wrestling, and then we would be reenacting what we just saw on TV. So we're wrestling on the floor. And then she would get mad at us and she would hit us with something. I don't know what she would hit us with, but probably hit us with the hot comb. She hit us with the hot comb. And you guys stop doing all that. So every Saturday night, man, I was be over at my grandmother's house watching that.
Bill Mercer at the Northside Coliseum in Fort Worth. And
the
Sportatorium in Dallas, too. But the one the one that was on TV was at the Northside Coliseum in Fort Worth. Okay. That's where I fell in love with Killer Kowalski. Remember the abdominal claw, Killer Kowalski, Killer Carl Cox.
It was a spoiler.
No, that Von Erich had the Iron Claw.
No. It was the spoiler was the mask.
Okay,
he had the mask, and they always tried to take off the mask. They would just get right there. Break out of it. Come on, I want to see
Meals
what the guy looks
Mascaris? There was another one that wore a mask, and
No, that was good.
So we should have a special guest here that
we should
knows quite a bit about Bill Mercer. If Chris has
do we have him now
online, Chris?
Not yet. You said next segment.
Next segment.
All right.
You said the second segment, so
I said the second thing we do.
Okay. Well,
he just felt left
call
out of
him
the
now. I'll let you
conversation,
know.
Chris.
All right, we'll take.
He just felt left out of the conversation. That's all. We didn't talk. He didn't.
Do you want to take an early break then?
Let's do that.
Okay, we're going to take an early break, and who do you want to identify?
Yes,
the
we're going
special
to have
guest is?
a North Texas alum, George Dunham, who at one point was the Texas Stadium PA announcer and knows Bill Mercer quite well.
All right, so George Dunham joins us as we go down memory lane in just a moment here on Mick Shots.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
How do you tell the world about all the great gifts in the Yeti store? Let her rip, Troy.
All right, folks, let's get started with the Yeti French Press. Enjoy coffee that stays hot for hours in a French press. 34 ounce for you, 6'4" for the cruise. The Yeti French Press. Hot mix waterproof bags. Bags waterproof. Submersible waterproof doubles. Waterproof bags. World's mostly water, so get a waterproof Yeti bag. Do I smell something cooking? Oh, new cast iron skillets made to be passed down like Mama's recipes. Take your steak, cornbread, cobbler's pot pie, and potatoes next oval with 3 sizes of Yeti cast iron skillets.
Gear, gifts, and product experts. Visit the Yeti store on McKinney Street and at South Lake Town Square today.
Hey, Cowboy fans, I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But lately, I've been learning a new game, crypto. Sound confusing? Don't worry, even us pros were rookies in crypto once. That's why I trust blockchain.com. They make crypto easy. No confusing jargon, just the tools to help you win.
Prescott keeps it, slides with a first down.
Invest like your icons, where everyone is a rookie in crypto with blockchain.com.
Perfect throw, my goodness. Wow, did he ever thread the needle?
Visit blockchain.com/cowboys to get started.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Back to Mick Shots.
Dallas Cowboys Nation. The Dallas Cowboys United, presented by Globe Life, is now exclusively in the Dallas Cowboys app. Join the official fan club today to receive access to the all-new Cowboys Drops feature, team news and pre-sale access, and fan and kid of the game. Download the APP now to join. Download the app now to join.
The
APP app. Download the app.
All right, very good. All right, we continue with Mick Shots. In a moment, we'll be joined by George Dunham, and we'll talk about the legacy of Bill Mercer, one of the early Cowboys play-by-play men and a mentor to so many in the sports broadcasting community in North Texas. In the meantime, Cowboys have a couple of gaping holes on their roster as we reach sort of the end of free agency. It's not over yet. Obviously, guys can be signed at a moment's notice.
That's right.
But we're through the first wave. We might be through the second wave already by now. And they're, with the exception of Will Greer, there's not a backup quarterback on this team, and a second wide receiver is another, what I would say is a gaping hole.
Yes, because the New Orleans Saints just signed
Brandon Cooks.
2-year deal.
He's
up
back
with the Saints.
He's going back to the Saints.
Yeah, where he started as a first-round draft pick. He started his career. Yep. That was the news on Friday. So it's going to be.
He wanted to stay.
Stay here, yep.
Yeah.
He wanted to stay.
Yeah.
But up to $13 million, I don't think the Cowboys were going there.
Man.
Unfortunately. What is he, 30?
31.
31?
Something in that range, yep.
So he
2014, he was a young guy
Saints.
coming into the league.
Yeah.
In 2014
First
as a
round
first-round pick. Yeah.
3 years, 1 year with the Patriots, 2 years with the Rams, 3 years with the Texans, and then 2 years.
What did he get
with the Cowboys?
It was 2 years up to $13 million. I don't know what, I haven't seen what the base is,
I hadn't
but
seen
the
that
guarantee.
yet.
But
and this last year, remember, he only played in 8 games. He
half a season with like 26 catches.
That's because they worked him to death in off season.
26.
They worked him to death in
259.
training camp.
No, what happened was he did that deal. He was getting those blood platelet injections in his knee.
I remember.
And it was after the 4th game against the Giants. And
he messed up his knee in training camp.
He did.
Because he was getting his ass worked off, Spags. That's
he was
what I'm
working
trying to
too
tell
hard
you.
in
Yes,
training camp?
that's what I'm telling you. No CD. That's all came from training camp. Let's just call it like it was.
And then he tried to do the injection.
Same reason that Kyrie got hurt.
Right. Got to carry the load.
He tried to do the injection, and he ended up with an infection. And then the knee really never came around to the point where he was Brandon Cooks, which was a shame.
He's a stud.
He was a good guy in the locker room.
He was having a hell of a training camp as well.
Yeah, remember?
I was seeing just what a player he was.
Because I remember talking to Dak about it, and Dak pointed out that, you know, he got off to a slow start the year before. He goes, but when you're throwing the ball to CD and, you know, everything we're doing, he didn't get much of an opportunity. Plus, he got there late. I think he missed most of the offseason. So, but yeah, he goes, now you can see what he can do with no CD there.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, the knee thing cropped up.
And a great influence on those young receivers in the Cowboys locker room. I mean, you look at the receivers the Cowboys have, and obviously behind CD, who turns 26 April 8th, by the way.
He's getting up there.
Cavante turns 29 in August. But beyond that, and of course, Cavante's just 3 years into the league now. Jalen Tolbert going into his free agent year, by the way, contract year. He just turned 26. Jalen Brooks turns 25 in May. Ryan Flanoy, an older player coming into the league as a rookie last year, he actually is 25 years old. Jonathan Mingo turned 24 last week. And then Paris Campbell was signed, the veteran, at the veteran minimum, and he's 27 years old. Or second-round draft pick, and hasn't done much at all in the league so far.
Year. Yeah, he didn't get much of an opportunity in Philadelphia.
All right,
that's an ugly list right there.
And so that's what I'm saying. There's a gaping hole
right
behind.
There is a NFL draft. Okay,
it's a draft, but I think they need a veteran guy, and
that is an ugly list right there, guys.
I think there's a Tyler Lockett that needs to come into that locker room.
There's a couple of veterans there ready to go.
Yeah. All right, we now are joined by a very special guest. Do you believe in the mean green? George
Heck
Dunham.
yeah.
George Dunham from Sports Radio. Well, it was 1310. Now, what is it now?
96.7.
96.7. Yeah, you can say the ticket.
Okay.
Whatever you want to call us, we'll answer to just about anything.
From the ticket, George, you got Bill Jones, you got Everson Walls, and you've got Mickey Spagnola. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh! I never thought I'd have the day where I got to talk to Everson Walls. That's
What's going
awesome.
on? How you doing, buddy?
Cubby, number 24. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
By the way, almost all of my family went to North Texas, so.
Is that right?
You were in good company, from my older sisters to my youngest niece.
By the way.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But here's the big news. Last night, North Texas advanced.
That's right.
In NIT. They're into the
they
quarterfinals.
did.
They're going up to Stillwater, Oklahoma to face Oklahoma State on Tuesday night, tomorrow night.
That's going to be packed. Everybody's coming from North Texas and Oklahoma.
Well, no one from Stillwater will be there, but they'll come up from Denton.
Yeah, they just need to rename the tournament the North Texas Invitational.
That's right.
The NTI.
That's right.
We own that tournament.
That's right. They won it all with Grant McCaslin, who's now the Texas Tech coach, as the Red Raiders into the Sweet 16, facing Coach Cal in Arkansas on Thursday.
Right.
But, George, the reason we've got you here is to reminisce a little bit about a guy who was very important in your life and, of course, is a former Cowboys radio voice going back to the late 60s and early 70s, a great impact on so many sports broadcasters, and came out of the University of North Texas, or going back in the day, North Texas State University.
Right.
The great Bill Mercer. Let's talk about Bill Mercer and his impact on you.
Well, yeah, I found out yesterday, I guess, Dave Barnett, who's now the voice of the Mean Green, contacted me and told me the news. And, you know, there's been a real emptiness for a lot of us. Even though Bill was at the age of 99, what an incredible life. Even so, you just thought those are the guys that are, that they're always going to be there. What a life he had, and what a broadcasting life he had. Bill was just a really kind spirit and teacher. And I think, with all the accolades, and we can talk wrestling and Cowboys and Dallas Texans and Chicago White Sox and all that, but he
Mickey's
was
raising his hand over here.
But he was an instructor at North Texas, and the class he taught was Sports Broadcasting 3330. It's still taught today by my good friend Hank Dickinson. And when you took that class, it was like a rite of passage. I'm now in a classroom where Craig Way once sat, and Dave Barnett and Ted Davis, who was a longtime voice of the Mavericks and Milwaukee Bucks, and David Hatchett, and all these names that we heard about. Phyllis George, the first female network sportscaster, was influenced by Bill and his tutelage at North Texas. And this is not an exaggeration. He impacted thousands of lives. And maybe they didn't go into broadcasting. Maybe they went into something else, or maybe they never got in front of the camera or in front of the microphone. But you learn so much from Bill's class. And when you can sit down and say, it was, help me out with the date here, Mick and Bill, it was New Year's Eve, 1967, I do believe, the Ice Bowl. And Blackie Sherrod and I had our coffee in front of us, and it was frozen. And I mean, he called the Ice Bowl. He called North Texas football when Abner Haynes broke the color barrier 10 years before Jerry Levias did at SMU. Leon King and Abner Haynes played at North Texas, and what they went through. And he told us those stories about, going on a train to Houston, and they wouldn't let the North Texas football team stay there because they had 2 black players. And so the North Texas football team stayed on the train. And, Well, I got two angry birds in my front yard that are chasing each other. Sorry about that.
Blackbirds.
But he just he told us stories like that were so impactful, and there he was as a young reporter in 1963, and he did news, he did sports, he did Highland Park football, and here he is in November of 1963. Getting ready to do a Highland Park football game, and the President of the United States was assassinated in Dallas. And there he is at a press conference surrounded by newsmen from all over the country. And it was Bill Mercer who asked Lee Harvey Oswald, or told him, by the way, you've been charged with murdering the President of the United States. Did you know that? He was an incredible reporter. And all of that being said, and whether he was talking to, a Von Erich or Lee Harvey Oswald, play-by-play came back to it because he could tell a story. He used to tell us a story about when he was reporting on a fire in Dallas, and he went live and he described it. And the news director apparently told him, "That's the greatest news report I've ever heard." And it was because he was doing play-by-play. He was descriptive about the flames and the smoke and what the firemen were doing. And beyond all that, he was just kind. He really was. He was really kind to all of us, and including me. And, Bill and I at one point had our differences, and, it was a very complicated situation when I eventually replaced him as the voice of the Mean Green. And some of that was my fault of how everything happened. And I'm so thankful that since then, we talked, and he showed such grace and understanding with me. And that's just, the essence of who he was. He was just a really kind and intelligent man.
George, you didn't get to Dallas in time to be able to hear any of his broadcasts live as a young kid?
No, the first I saw of him, ironically, was when I lived in Chicago, and he's sitting next to Harry Carey. It was he did White Sox baseball on Channel 44, and I was there every night for it. And then when I moved down here, I saw him doing wrestling, and I thought, man, this guy has a tough gig. That's the guy who used to do the White Sox, and here he is, talking to some wrestler, and the chairs being hit over someone's head in the background. And then, I heard about his legendary status at North Texas when I went there, but I went there as a business major. And then I met Craig Miller, and he told me that he was a broadcast major. I didn't even know they had that. And then I met Bill, and that just changed my life. It changed the trajectory of what I was interested in. I thought, wow, I never even thought about being a sports broadcaster. That sounds great.
George, I wonder what it sounded like when Bill Mercer and Harry Carey were in the booth together. How about we reenact for just a moment here? I'll be Bill Mercer. You be Harry Carey. And Wilbur Wood, the knuckleballer, is on the mound for the Chicago White Sox. And here's the pitch. Harry, you take it from here.
Here's the pitch, and it's outside for ball four. You think you pay a guy $120,000 a year, Bill, and he could get it over the plate.
Oh, I love it.
That's great, George.
But and that was the thing too about Bill. He was critical without cutting, and one thing that he always got on me, and everyone assumes, oh, you took sports broadcasting. That was probably a blow-off class. Hey, I did not make an A. I made a B, and it killed me because, only the best of the best made an A. And I thought, but again, it was one of those times where he pulled me aside and he said, I gave you a B because I know you can be better. And it made me work to get better. And, and again, that was just a teaching moment for him. And, yeah, he was and all that would be enough for a lifetime. But then you fight for our country on a little PT boat in the South Pacific, and Bill went through some serious battles and saw some terrible, terrible things. And he never really talked specifics about those terrible things that he saw, but that's part of what made him. I think he was so intelligent. He was world traveled and he read a lot. He just knew a lot and would make references that, as students, we could look at each other and go, Mount Hirabachi, where is that? And then, but he would, one of the things I was getting to that he would work with me, he'd probably be telling me that right now. Smile when you broadcast. This is supposed to be fun, and I think I was just sweating bullets trying to get names and numbers right that I didn't often enjoy the broadcast. And it's something I've really worked on through the years. And he could tell that just by listening to your tape. He'd say, well, are you smiling? And I'd say, well, no. Well, why not? You're at a ball game. This is great. And the people who are listening that want to enjoy the game, they can't enjoy it if someone's on the other end and all he does is criticize and he's not smiling. That's just one of the, I could go on and on with just the helpful hints that he gave as to make you a better broadcaster, but also just to, I think, make you a better person.
George, a couple of years ago, didn't you guys have some sort of reunion with him, with a bunch of the guys that...
We did, and this is, I thought about this, and I'm so glad we did it. A few of us got together, a lot of those names that I mentioned, Craig and Don Harris, who you know Bill really well, and San Antonio, and guys we went to school with, and people and girls that came before us, and we got a group together from the 60s, 70s, and the 80s and 90s and the aughts. And, of course, if you're going to name anything after someone these days, you got to raise money to do it. But that's just part of the thing. And we raised some money. And, anytime you cover a game at North Texas and you go to, which is now Datku Stadium, and you go to, the dining services, the media room, it's the Bill Mercer media room. And there's pictures of Bill. One of his old headsets is up there. And it was a really cool reunion, and it was really neat hearing from people who were put on the air in the 1960s. And, they were talking about going on the air and telling Bill, hey, I don't agree with what's going on in our country right now. And Bill would say, well, say it, and that's your job as a broadcaster. You can have some editorial commentary, and, Bill was right out there with them. And he was just, he was, it was almost like a Forrest Gump-like life that he had, the Ice Bowl, Harry Carey, Lee Harvey Oswald, Abner Haynes, the minor league baseball teams in Dallas and Fort Worth that he did. The Dallas Texans when the AFL came to town, and Bill was right there in the middle of it.
And perhaps best known for his relationship with the Von Erichs and world-class wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dave Barnett always quotes that they took a poll in Saudi Arabia, and at one point, it was like the Von Erichs, Skanbar Akbar, and Bill were the most popular people in Saudi Arabia at the time. And when we would go on the road during North Texas, and I worked with Bill as a student, but I came back in 1990, and we worked together 90 through 93, and we would go to Lake Charles, Natchitoches, Jonesboro, Arkansas, and all those stops in Louisiana, and you would think we were traveling with Elvis when we would walk into a restaurant. Hey, that's the wrestling guy. Can I have your autograph? Can you autograph my menu and say that you ate at my restaurant? Yeah, people loved Bill.
It's kind of like Vern Lundquist. Vern Lundquist did so many great events, from the Masters to the Cowboys, the NFL, the SEC, but he's best known for bowling for dollars.
Bowling for dollars, yeah, absolutely.
I remember that.
That's right. See, Everson's a big bowling for dollars.
I remember that.
Well, George, we appreciate you reliving some of the memories with Bill Mercer, and it had great impact on so many. I mean, from you to Craig Miller to, you mentioned several of them there, but there's so many that have gone on to great careers. You mentioned Craig Way with the University of Texas, Mark Falwell with the Mavericks, Dave Barnett for decades, at such an early age became the Mavericks play-by-play guy. I think he was 23 years old, basically fresh out of the Bill Mercer School of Broadcasting, and so many more that are younger ones like Ted Emmerich and Rich Phillips at SMU, and then the list goes on and on.
It really does, and I appreciate you guys talking about Bill. And it's really been gratifying the last 24 hours watching newscast and podcast and radio and newspaper, and they're talking about Bill, and he deserves it because he was a legend. And they just don't make them like that anymore for sure.
All right, George Dunham from
Thanks,
The Ticket.
George.
We appreciate you joining us on Mick Shots. And for more, you can hear much more from Everson Walls if you check out Mick Shots on DallasCowboys.com. Off-season, George.
I always believed that Joe Montana was throwing it away.
I promise you he was.
I know. I'm with you.
All right, George. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
All right, and Mick Shots continues in just a moment.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Hey Cowboy fans, I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But lately, I've been learning a new game, crypto. Sound confusing? Don't worry, even us pros were rookies in crypto once. That's why I trust blockchain.com. They make crypto easy. No confusing jargon, just the tools to help you win.
Prescott keeps it, slides with a first down.
Invest like your icons, where everyone is a rookie in crypto with blockchain.com.
Perfect throw, my goodness. Wow, did he ever thread the needle.
Visit blockchain.com/Cowboys to get started.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mick Shots.
The Dallas Cowboys Flag Football League is here. With nearly 100 participating high schools, the Cowboys are thrilled to provide opportunities for athletes to develop their talent and foster the growth of girls flag football in the state of Texas. Find teams, view schedules, and learn more at dallascowboys.com/girlsflag.
All right, very good. Great to have George Dunham on. And again, Bill Mercer was the voice of the Cowboys during the Ice Bowl, first Super Bowls, and great legacy. Mickey, what else you got there on your legal pad in our last?
Well, I think we can pick up where we left off and look into your big green notebook on wide receivers, since we said that there seems to be a void there.
Well,
I called it a sad list. Let's just call it what it is, a sad list.
You know, that's a good idea.
First round too soon?
There aren't very many, what I would say, the Green Notebook would say, are first-round wide receivers. So you can get wide receivers later in the draft, but there's not the first-round. There is T-Mac from Arizona. You like the Tetaroa McMillan is his name. Okay.
I couldn't have said his first.
Tetaroa?
He's a big 6'4" wide receiver.
Okay.
So he'll go by T-Mac.
Yeah, T-Mac is just know him by T-Mac. You like Matthew Golden from Texas. And by the way, Texas Pro Day is tomorrow.
And I'm going.
Are you really?
Yes.
Okay.
Myself.
You like Isaiah Bond too, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I'm going. Myself.
Because I'm Isaiah Bond or Matthew Golden?
Both of them.
You're checking out those wide receivers.
That's right. I'll have a report out of next Monday.
They'll have a quarterback throwing to him as well.
They
Quinn
will.
Ewers, who, by the way, the reports are out there that he has a visit with the Cowboys. Of course, he's a Dallas Day guy, but also there's a report this morning that Ewers has 30 visits with a number of teams, including the Cowboys.
So the two wide receivers from UT, first round, mid-round, late round, too early at 12?
I would say it's too early at 12, but when you run a 4.29, that's going to catch the attention. And Xavier Worthy, now Golden was at Texas just 1 year, 16 games in 1 year, 58 catches.
Been at Houston?
But was at Houston prior to that for 2 years. He also has kick return ability and returned 2 kicks for touchdowns at Houston. So we saw the run on wide receivers at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round last year. It just kind of depends where that run starts. This draft at running back is really good. Defensive line looks to be really deep. Now, what happens on that is sometimes because there's so many running backs, because there's so many defensive linemen, maybe you want to get your wide receiver earlier because of that, because they'll go quicker and they're not as deep maybe. But so you never know how it's going to play out. But typically, I think you'll find your wide receivers that are Golden size, 5'11", 190, but with that speed, the speed gets him into the first round, but the size would put him in the second or third round.
Are both of them small?
Let me find Bond here. They're both similar size, to answer your question. Yeah,
under 6 feet.
Yeah, or around that.
But he could be more than a slot receiver.
Golden. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
He can play outside. Yeah.
Well, they've got guys that can play outside. I mean, all the guys you just mentioned that the Cowboys have rights to. I don't know that there's a typical slot receiver among them, if you think about it. Now, they would do well Turpin can run out of the slot. CD has done it. In that group you mentioned, the guy that needs an opportunity and he's got to be able to take advantage of it is Mingo. I mean, that guy was awfully good at Ole Miss, and he really didn't do much in Carolina. I don't know if that has to do with the quarterback play while he was there, but, I mean, as a number 2 guy outside, pretty darn good.
You know, I recall when I was playing ball, I mean, even going back to high school, I always knew that the off season was my ticket. Never was a good first impression guy. Never did wow any coaches right off the bat. But if you could just let me work in. Let me work in and let me show you what I can do. You're not going to do that during the season. You got to do it, and back then we would do it in the spring. The spring ball was when you made your move, whether it was high school or whether it was college. And when you came to camp, you better do something to show people what you got inside of you. I don't think Mingo has taken that taken that leap. You have to have that leap. You have to have confidence in yourself to take that leap, to be able to say, I'm going to go out here and show you what I can do.
So what's going to be crucial for him is here in just a couple of weeks, the Cowboys start their, because
they get extra
coach,
time.
they get extra time.
He got to show.
Is April, May, and June what he shows to the coaches.
He got to show.
And will
He's
depend
got to show
on where he
if you're going to be lukewarm and during this time of your career, then that's all you got. If you can't bring it out of yourself to show them exactly what you have, to have the confidence and the courage to show them what you can do, then you're never gonna advance towards where you are right now. If he's gonna do this, and we talk about his size, talk about what he did at Ole Miss, somehow he's got to bring that back. I don't know what happened in Carolina, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in Carolina, but he got to bring that back. He has to show, and with the DBs that he has out here, one advantage I had when I went to the Giants didn't have good wide receivers. So I look good in practice.
Why isn't this guy playing wide receiver?
Right. I look great. He can't. No one can catch anything on. He's out here working now against some DBs that he should be able to beat. He should be able to show us what he can do against average DBs. He better start showing it now, because that list, we are not going anywhere with that list. I don't care how good your running back is. You've got to have some guys that's willing to step up, and I'm talking about Tolbert as well. They got to do more than what I've seen, because otherwise we're looking at a quarterback who's going to get hurt again trying to wait for these wide receivers to get open. You can't just keep looking at one all the time. You got to look at a team of receivers that you can have, that you can depend on, like clockwork. It's got to be, the system has to be able to you have to work within the system to make yourself good, to where you can say, okay, he can depend on me on 2nd and 13. He can depend on me in critical moments of a ball game. Right now, I don't know if that list is going to work it for us.
I would like to go down the running back road here, because you've got pro days this week. We mentioned Texas is tomorrow. Ohio State is Wednesday. Got a couple of pro days today with some two running backs from Ohio State. A couple of running backs working out today. Pro days at North Carolina, Omarion Hampton, and at Iowa, Caleb Johnson. But the two Ohio State guys, Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, I've been looking at these guys, and this is where Cowboys are going to be. They're going to find them.
Running back.
Yeah.
In the draft.
Yeah, and it's going to be in the top 100 picks. Okay, we're not waiting till the 4th round here, right? Are we in agreement on that?
Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
Because, once again, that list of wide receivers is ugly.
Yeah.
That's why you need a running back.
So when they had the assistant coach interviews, it was end of February,
yeah,
somewhere in there, I was looking at everything.
Oh, we're looking at some video here. 32 for Ohio State is Travion Henderson, 5'11", 202, ran a 4.43 at the 40, ran for 1,000 yards, 7.1 yards a carry, 10 touchdowns, had 27 catches for another 284 yards. Team captain at Ohio State. Those are his senior year numbers.
Was a nice one.
Yeah.
Which one's the Ohio State?
This is Ohio State, number 32, Travion Henderson.
Okay, and the other guy,
Quinshon Judkins,
who had a pretty good playoff run.
Well, both
of those guys are first-round picks, right?
Well, they could be. They could be first rounders, or they could because team needs and that sort of thing, and feelings about running backs in general.
How's their
number one
injury,
is Quinshon Judkins.
How was their injury history?
It appears that they've been healthy throughout their career. Now, Judkins here, number one. He's a bigger back, 6 foot, 221, ran a 4.48 with a 38.5 vertical and 11 broad jump. So he's got a good explosion. Ooh, yeah. And he started his career at Ole Miss. He was first team All SEC in 23 at Ole Miss. His first year at Ole Miss, he ran for 1,567 yards and 16 touchdowns. And this year, I told you what Henderson did at Ohio State with 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Well, Judkins had 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns.
And I heard a interview with Henderson.
Yep.
And the question was, so you saw Judkins transferring to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
What went through your mind? Were you thinking, oh, I got to go? And he goes, no. He goes, we're going to compete. And he goes, if he's that good, then we're going to have a hell of a competition.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before and I'm going, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I like the way he handled the entire interview, and it was from the combine. And
it's like a Jalen Hurts situation.
Yeah.
In Philly.
Yeah.
Right.
And so don't be afraid of the competition. So what I was going to tell you when you went into that, if you look at what the Cowboys have done, putting this staff together, starting with Schottenheimer, when he was offensive coordinator, Seattle, and the Jets, he had dynamic running games. There was a couple times, once with the Jets, they led the league in rushing. He did it in Seattle.
The AFC Championship game that year, too.
Right.
And Seattle led the league also. That's right.
And then look who he hired. And I think, I want to say Miles Sanders might have said it. He goes, they asked him about coming here in the running game, and he goes, well, you don't always see the offensive coordinator as an offensive line coach. So they have made, I think, a priority hiring Clayton Adams, a proven offensive line coach who had been an offensive coordinator line coach in college the last 2 years at Arizona, and they ran the ball, and someone said, well, that's because of Kyle Murray. Well, Murray ran well the first year. The second year, he didn't have but 200 yards rushing, so James Conner was running back.
Yes.
And he flourished. The Arizonas ran for more yards than they had in 16 years with him as the offensive line coach. Then you hire a offensive line coach who had been the OC and offensive line coach at Kansas State, Connor Riley? Connor Riley. And so I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm saying, well, they seem to be making a priority of this running game. So when Schottenheimer was walking off, when the assistants were doing the interview, I said, am I right to think that you're putting an emphasis on the running game? And he goes, I'd say that's accurate. And then I said, and the hires you made, was it intentional to boost the running game? He says, I think so. He says, I've been tracking some of these guys for a long time. And he pointed out that, when he was an offensive coordinator, he had to put staffs together. So he kept his eye on some of these up-and-coming coaches, not only in the NFL, but in college, too. And then if you look at Lunda Wells, the tight end coach, well, he was an offensive line. He was an offensive lineman at LSU, and he was an offensive line coach before he got to tight ends here. So, to me, they want to make this running game go, whether it's the guys they have now or adding somebody, at least one guy in the first 2 rounds.
All right. One other note on these 2 Ohio State running backs. Henderson is the more veteran of the 2. He was at Ohio State for 4 years. He ranks top 5 all-time Ohio State running backs. Can you name any Ohio State running backs from the past? Starting with Archie Griffin.
Eddie George.
Number 2 on the list, J.K. Dobbins. 3 is Zeke. 4, Eddie George. And number 5 is Travion Henderson as far as all-time rushing at Ohio State. The other thing that I picked up on from him is he seems to be really good as a pass protector. A very physical, good blocker.
It looks like.
And so he may be, as a every down back type. He may be more ready to go right now than Judkins, but I love Judkins too as far as his
strength.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
His strength.
Yeah,
I like it. I like.
When Henderson too. Henderson had a 38.5 vertical and 10.8 broad jump. Both of them are very similar.
I like Henderson's running style a little bit better.
Yeah,
only because it's more elusive.
Yeah,
to the eye.
Right.
Not that he would be more effective.
All right. Then there's North Carolina. They got their pro day today. O'Marion Hampton, and a lot of people are ranking him just behind Ashton Genty as the number 2 running back. Okay, we just saw those Ohio State backs. Well, this guy must really be something if he ranks right behind him. 6 foot. 221 pounds, very similar to the numbers on Quinshon Judkins with a 4.46 40 and a 38 vertical and a 10.10 broad jump. Was the machine broken at the combine? They're all got the same numbers.
Yeah, let's just okay, we good. Let's just put this.
At Hampton, at North Carolina. Last couple of years, over 250 rushing attempts, over 1,500 yards both years, and average very consistent 5.9 yards a carry, and scored 15 touchdowns both years at North Carolina.
Now, how good are these as receiving backs? I think that's
Hampton had
extremely important.
Okay, Hampton had 38 catches. For 373 yards and 2 touchdowns his senior year. One thing on Judkins with Ohio State, he did not look as natural catching the ball as what Henderson did too. And that's the other thing that might set Henderson apart.
Let's just say we have this issue with wide receivers, and I just talked about the young man. If you have a shifty running back that can also be a good pass receiver, if you have a tight end that's going to block well for you, then he's going to be your best friend in play action. So I'm looking at this list that we have, not just the wide receiver list, but the entire roster that we could potentially have. If we're going to be running the ball, then those counters, those other options are going to be extremely important. Your tight ends got to know how to block and catch a ball. You got to have more than one good tight end that can do that. And it'd be best if you don't have a good number 2 receiver, then your running back, he needs to be a very shifty and good pass catching running back as well.
Well, and that's where at least one of the 2 guys they've signed now, Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, you're going to keep a veteran running back. And those guys have been pretty good in the passing game, as I remembered, because Sanders was more.
I would think you're keeping both those guys. I don't think either one of them is Royce Freeman.
Okay, you believe?
I think you keep both of those guys plus a rookie, and then Deuce fits in if he can
somewhere. But I was looking up those guys,
or Deuce beats out one of those guys.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And those guys in the passing game previously have been pretty good catching the ball. Now, Williams had to come back from his torn ACL. Actually, he hit the Triple Crown in knee injury his second year in Denver. So he's 2 years removed from it now. So you would hope that he can get back.
He had one 8-game stretch last year, and I don't know what happened before that and after that, but weeks 4 through 11, he averaged 4.6 yards a carry for the Broncos.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was on nearly 100 carries, averaged 4.6 yards a carry.
And Miles Sanders did a pretty good job. I mean, he parlayed that year into a big contract with Carolina, and then things went down. As a matter of fact, in his interviews, somebody asked him, well, what was the deal in Carolina? And he goes, well, I don't want to talk out of school. Let's just leave it as it is what it is. But something happened in Carolina with him as the running back.
But they had Hubbard, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard.
And Chuba Hubbard
also
stepped
drafted
up.
Yes, he did.
They also drafted Jonathan Brooks out of Texas in the second round, but he got hurt again and tore his ACL for the second straight year.
Wow. So those guys, to go to your deal about the passing game, they should be able to help out.
And see, because I'm with these coaches, I'm going to believe in you, right? But with this roster, there's only so much you can do. There's a culture you're going to have to create based on the lack of or the opportunity you have with this roster. And that's what I'm looking at. If this is the roster we're going to have, we don't have any great wide receivers, then we better have some guys that play other positions that can do more than one thing.
You know, and the other thing on these gaping holes that I mentioned at quarterback and at wide receiver, there's also the gaping hole at running back. And I'm not talking just for this year, but I'm talking for the next 4 years, which is why they need to get it would be great to have a backup quarterback who is good enough that he can also be your developmental quarterback. And
Teddy Two Gloves. That seems to be his thing. That's what he does.
After he coaches his high school
After he coaches high school championship.
That season's over December 1st, and then he joins a team. That's a pretty good gig.
You'll enjoy this when I talked to Jason Garrett about Zach Martin and what he meant to the team and what he meant to the development of that offensive line. At the end, we got off on the running game, the offensive line, and he was saying, you know, go back when football started, if you didn't have a decent offensive line, you weren't doing anything. No. And he said, I just believe, and this was a quote, I just believe in the pervasive impact of it. I preached this all the time on TV as everyone talked about the demise of the running back. You know, did Saquon Barkley have an impact on the Eagles? And then he went on to say, he said, I think the league got sidetracked a little bit because of Tom Brady. And I'm going to paraphrase. He said, well, everybody said you don't need a running back, right? He goes, you don't need a running back if you have Tom Brady, right? And they were able to use all their other resources to build their defense. He goes, Tom Brady made the whole thing work. Then take Tom Brady out of New England, and how's it been since? And so he said, you got to have a running game, and that's why we did what we did. And he pointed out in our best years, the quarterback's best years, so he's talking Romo, Dak twice, the running backs led the league in rushing.
DeMarco in 2014.
Zeke, and then Zeke again.
2016, yep.
So, and I think Schottenheimer, and he went out of his way to point it out, he goes, where did Schottenheimer learn his football? Well, it's from his father. He goes, you remember Marty Ball? He goes, they ran the ball, they played defense, and they played special teams. But he was known for running the football.
LT.
So that's right. You almost forgot about his stint in
San
Diego, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way, LaDainian Tomlinson is now a coach at Oak Ridge School in
I saw that.
Yeah. All right. And on that note, that wraps up another week
Boy,
of
this was
broadcasting.
a full
here
Mick Shots.
On Mick Shots. And we won't turn the calendar next week. It will still be in March next Monday, right? March 31st is Monday.
I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I'll be here.
I will be here too.
I'll be here.
We hope you will be as well on the next edition of Mick Shots.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!